I lost it all in 2008. Yes, you heard that correct. I lost everything in 2008. And today we're going to be talking about the difference between a mentor and a coach and what a difference it can make in your business, but I would also say in your life. We're going to be going through the unfiltered story of my life, talking about the early days of a paper route, Kool-Aid stands, all the way up until the financial crisis, and then rebuilding to where we're at today in 2025 and where we're planning on going in the future. Today is a day that you're going to be able to learn something, whether you're scaling a business, whether you're stuck in a business, whether you're just starting a business, thinking about starting a business, or maybe you just lost everything or are on the verge of losing everything. You're going to walk away with at least three steps that you'll be able to apply today. I'm Bryon Robbins, and I want to welcome you to Unlocking Growth. We're going to start with the story of where it all began, and that was at a very young age where I had a paper route, Kool-Aid stands. I also would grow vegetables in a garden and sell them door to door with one of those little red wagons and going through and finding out what people wanted. I had things like kohlrabi, which people had never heard of before. And so you'd give out free samples to get them trying it. And so it was one of those early beginnings where even then I was doing multiple businesses at the same time. There was many times I'd have 2 or 3 paper routes. We had a local review atlas, and then we had a weekly penny saver. And at the same time, I would be doing the Kool-Aid stand during the days. We lived near the college, and so we'd get a little bit of traffic, and people would stop and, I guess, have pity on me and buy that Kool-Aid for 5 cents a glass. But then as the years progressed into 1978, at the age of 8 years old, the first time I actually paid taxes, I began working for my father in his wholesale bait business. I would be doing everything from counting worms to squeezing peat moss and all kinds of tasks that he would pay me piece rate for. And then even then, I would start thinking about how else could I make money. My dad would buy 100,000 worms at a time from Canada and make weekly trips to Minnesota to be able to pick up minnows. We were living down in Illinois, and he would do these routes. And my friends and I began picking worms up when it would rain, and we'd get 2.5 cents a piece selling these to them. And we would begin thinking, how can we pick up worms faster? You know, the same thing we applied to business today was applying back then, but just at a very young age. We ended up tying coffee cans around our ankles and having wheat lights that we wore on our heads. And we would be out there picking up worms as fast as we possibly could. And we could make anywhere from $10 to $20 a night being able to do that. I believe my father instilled in me that idea of always looking for how do you make money. If you're making money by counting the worms, then how could I sell the worms to my father? And then as the years progressed, my dad sold that business and went into construction, and I began working with him in the construction at the age of probably 12, 13, and that did not go real well. Us working together, we kind of, in those early teenage years, things were a little rough there. And on one of the jobs, we're on a farm, and the farmer needed extra help, and my dad gladly let him hire me out from underneath him, and I worked on the farm for the next 3 years. While I was in high school, learned a lot of things while working on the farm as far as what hard work is, and also what it means to be trusting in God for rain, trusting in God for the sun, and all the things that go along with farming. And it was an incredible experience. Byron Keating was he was my boss, and I would say mentor at that time, and even a coach at that time. He was one of those guys that taught you never to have your hands in your pockets. You're always to be busy and doing something. And so learned a lot while I was on that farm. At the same time, I began working at a place called the Rib Shack in Galesburg, always doing multiple things at the same time. And on the weekends, I'd be washing dishes there, which would later serve me as out of high school. I had a situation where a boss of mine, a job that I really liked a lot, we would go to auctions, buy heavy machinery, and he came down with cancer and he passed away suddenly. And so I was without a job. And I went and applied at a Pizza Hut and was washing dishes and prepping in the mornings, and started even learning the restaurant business from a different perspective. then my first time in high school when I was washing dishes at the Rib Shack. And then over the course of about a year and a half, I became the manager of that local Pizza Hut that we have here in Monmouth, Illinois. We're a town of about 9,500 people, so a smaller town. And over the next years, I was able to take that restaurant to over $1 million in sales. And that was, right around 30 years ago. And so at that time, that store had never hit those kinds of numbers. And I was very proud of our team and the people that we had assembled. We had about 50 employees there at the Pizza Hut, and it was an incredible team of managers and assistant managers and shift managers that made all that possible. And we looked at how we were able to get into the local school system. We were able to get into local businesses for their lunches, and we worked really hard at looking at avenues to be able to sell more pizza and to get people to come in more often. And so from Pizza Hut, I went back into construction with my father. We had Rich Robbins and Sons, and we had 3 crews. We did everything from building decks to fences to room additions to roofing. We did all kinds of different things, and I learned during that time. Now I was responsible for putting together bids and running crews. My dad was teaching me how to do that, and so it taught me how to cost out a job, how to make sure that at the end of the job you had a profit, and so learned a lot over the next few years as we were doing the business of construction. We then at the same time, because we can never seem to just do one business at a time, we started Robbins Pallets because of a need that we saw. A local business by the name of Maytag, who made washers and dryers and refrigerators and things like that. They were needing to get rid of a load of pallets to 2 loads of pallets a day. I met with a gentleman from there and told him that starting the next week, we could take all those pallets. And so that's how Robbins Pallets began. My dad, my brother, and I, we bought a fork truck, we bought a trailer, and within 1 week, we had warehouse space that we leased, and we started Robbins Pallets, the 3 of us, and we began picking these pallets up, sorting them, and then finding homes for them to be able to sell them. We did not even know which way you were to measure a pallet, whether it's stringer first, decking first, what the stringer even was, what the decking even was on a pallet. And so it was a learning curve for us in that business. But one of the things that we've always looked at when looking at businesses is where there's a need, there's an opportunity. And so it's just a matter of taking that opportunity and then developing it, commit first and then figure it out later is kind of the motto that we've had when looking at business. With Robbins Pallets, we then began looking at other things that we're able to do, and there was other businesses going on. My brother was buying houses and selling them on contract. That was something that he was doing. At that time, he wasn't into commercial real estate as we are now, but just in the residential. My wife and I began a import-export business. We started going to Thailand. We had a partner back then that we went to Thailand with. We were buying wooden items from there and selling them here in the U.S. We also started a soy candle company called the Fuzzy Bean Candle Company, and we produced soy candles that we sold nationwide. We private labeled these. We sold them, everything from gift shops to hair salons, and we did shows throughout the U.S., and we did both wholesale and retail with that. We imported from Thailand for quite some time. We also, for a short time, were exporting to Honduras. And then we've also imported some items from Honduras. With Fuzzy Bean Candle Company and with the Exotic in Nature, the company that we had that imported, when 2008 hit, the retail business across the United States was hit extremely hard, which ended up in the end, we tried to hang on, we held on to our employees. We were trying really hard to stay afloat through that time, and we lasted for about 2 years in that time, and we just dug ourselves into a deeper and deeper hole, learned a lot of hard lessons through that time, and in the end of it, we ended up losing everything. And so at that time, I began going into a radio station at 4:30 in the morning to do news and sports and things of that nature. Also was working with our church and working with the youth and the family side at our church. And then I started working for Robbins Resource Management, which had come out of Robbins Pallets, and that was for buying and selling pallets and also the lumber used, recycled, deck boards and stringers, also new out of Canada and throughout the US. And so I started managing Robbins Resource Management about 18 years ago. It's about that same time frame, 2009, right in there when I began managing that business. And we started the process, and I started the process in my own life, but then also the process in other businesses, rebuilding those businesses through a very tough time, in the US economy. With Robbins Resource Management, we ended up having wood pallet pros and plastic pallet pros come out of that business, where we do everything from freezer spacers to containers, to, all kinds of different products that we're able to offer. Anytime we find a need within a company, we're looking to fulfill that need. We also have our own warehouse space that we use for our operations. And then with that, what we find is other people needing space, other people having things they need performed. And so that's why it ends up spawning into other business ideas and other business ventures. And so today we have not only warehouse space, we have office space, we have retail space that we're able to offer to other people. We are always looking, and that's why we call it Robbins Resource Management, is we're always looking for ways in which we can serve other people, in ways in which we can help other businesses. And then we also, through time here in our community, we want to keep things local in our community. We want to help our community. And so my brother and I, a number of years ago, had the opportunity to partner here locally with the radio stations to keep them local, so they're, have the local sports, the local news, and all the things that happen within our community. And so that's another business that we got involved in. And then through Robbins Resource Management and the marketing that we were doing, we ended up having a marketing company spring out of that, which is Clear Profit Digital Marketing. And that company is doing very well. Right now, we're hiring just about as quick as we can. If you've had the opportunity, there's a place called Judy's in Galesburg, Illinois. That's one of our clients, along with many others. And this has given us national presence. And so it has created a lot of opportunity for us to be able to serve other people. With all of these businesses dating back to when I first began, when I was 7, 8 years old, and then up to the present, there's been so many lessons. Some of them really good lessons. Some of the lessons have been extremely hard lessons to learn. But because of the cross-section of businesses, I've been able to learn everything from exporting and importing to what it takes to begin a business, what's the tax liabilities of those businesses, what is the best way to set up that business, an S Corp, a C Corp, a limited liability, is it a sole business? Like, there's so many different things that you're looking at when you're starting a business. And then pricing, what's your margins? And then when I was with A&D Management, managing the Pizza Hut, I learned a tremendous amount about P&Ls and balance sheets and all the things that had to do with the financials. And so with each of these businesses, I've been able to hone my skills more and more over time. And one of the biggest thing is hiring the right people, surrounding yourself with the right people that they're able to take care of the jobs that maybe are not in your expertise. So there's been lots of lessons learned. I would say one of the biggest lessons is grit. It's resilience. It's sticking with it. One of the books I read early on was called The Tipping Point. And so many times people get right to that spot and then they don't make it over the top of the mountain. They don't make it to the top of the mountain. And so resilience is something that's very important, but there's so many lessons that we've been able to learn. With my past experiences, here's why listening could help you take the next step faster. If you're thinking about starting a business, if you're thinking about maybe adding your first employee, or maybe you're looking at, we need to add structure to our business. We need to have KPIs and metrics, and we need to have SOPs. Or maybe you're thinking, I'm not even sure what you were just talking about. What is an SOP? What is a KPI? What is a metric? Or maybe you're going through a little bit of a downturn in your business right now, or maybe you've lost your business and you're not sure what the next step is. I want you to know this is for you. If you're looking at the possibility of financing and you're not sure what kind of financing to even apply for, do you need a line of credit? Is it going to be financing on an asset? Is it going to be financing that's on a product that you have? Are you going to be looking at signing away your life when you're opening that business? What kind of structure are you putting to that business? Is it an S Corp, a C Corp? Is it a limited liability company? Or maybe you're also looking at the balance sheet and the profit and loss statement. What's that even mean? And how do you read those? A lot of times businesses out there will have all of their receipts and everything in a shoebox. And you hear accountants talk about this all the time. And a company just brings it in. And at the end of the year, they figure out whether they're making money or not. If these are the kinds of things that you're struggling with or have questions around, then this is for you. When we talk about coaches and mentors and how they're needed today, there's a lot of people out there that are not sure what the definition of a coach is and what the definition of a mentor is. And so a coach, I like to think about it like this. A coach is someone that's going to be coaching you by the calendar, by the metrics, by your KPIs, by things that you're able to attain, weekly to-do lists, things that you have to get done before the next session. Think of a coach as like a high school or college coach or a pro coach. When they're coaching a team, they're telling you how many times you have to run up and down the court. They're telling you, what you need to do next. And a mentor is somebody who's done what you're trying to do. One of the things that I like to think of when thinking about coaches and mentors is Kobe Bryant would look to Michael Jordan as a mentor, because Michael Jordan knew what it was like to take that last shot of the game, whether it was going to win the game or whether that shot was going to be the reason why you lost the game, which is not actually why you lost the game. There's lots of time before then, but there's a lot of pressure on somebody during that time. And a coach, most coaches in the NBA, NFL, any professional sport, most coaches have never actually played the sport at that level. And so they can coach, they can tell you where to take the shot from. They can tell you where you have the best chance of being able to hit that shot. They can help you practice to get ready for that, but they're not going to be able to mentor you through the emotional toll that those shots take. And so I believe that every business owner, every manager out there, you need to have a coach. This could be your manager, this could be your boss, that could be your coach, but then you also need to find a mentor, someone who's done what you're trying to do. When you're in business, and you hear this all the time from business owners across the United States, it's one of the loneliest places to be. Payroll is on your shoulders. New taxes coming at you, new insurances you've never even heard of before, all of a sudden springing up, and everybody's chipping away at that money that you're bringing in to where you're trying to keep a bottom line. You're the one that has to be concerned with paying the utilities and making sure all the jobs stay in line and that we always have work for the next day. This is a place that can become very stressful, and it's also a place where you can start to feel a lot of weight. And this is why I want to encourage you to find a mentor in your town. If you're not able to have one that you meet with physically, then make sure you have somebody you're following. For me personally, one of my mentors is Brandon Dawson. Another one is Natalie Dawson, Laura Rogers. I have a number of mentors. I have Pastor AJ, Pastor Ron. I have spiritual mentors. I have people in my life that I'm able to see and meet with and have conversations with who have done the things that I'm trying to do. The way to get the best results with a coach and mentor is to have both. And you need a coach that's going to be able to help you in the day-to-day activities that are going on in your business. And they're able to coach you with all the things that you need to be doing as a business owner. How are you going to hit your metrics? How do you read a P&L? How do you read a balance sheet? A mentor is going to be someone that's helping you on the emotional side, is helping you on the relational side, is helping you when you're looking out 3 to 5 years out. That's where a mentor is really going to come in, is when you're setting goals and doing that. Well, here's some things I want you to look for, because there's all kinds of people. If you go out on the internet right now and you go out on YouTube and in all different places with social media, you have a lot of people who are calling themselves coaches. You have a lot of people who are calling themselves mentors. And when you're talking to a coach, one of the first things I would want to know from a coach is, what are they using for a scorecard? What teams have they had? What teams have they coached? Who can I call on and talk to where they've taken someone from point A to point B? You know, when the college team or a pro team or a high school team, when they're calling a new coach, they're looking at that coach's past to make the right decision to hire that coach. Make sure if you're hiring a coach, or make sure if you're having someone who's going to be a coach in your life, that you're putting them through the same process that you would put a new employee through. When looking for a mentor, this is where you want someone who's got the battle scars. You want somebody who's going to share the stories of when they made the wrong decisions and what happened from those wrong decisions, but they're also going to share with you when they made the right decisions, and that's led them to where they're at now in life. And you want to make sure you have the right mentor and the right coach, because this is how you will not lose. The only way you can lose in business, I believe, the only way you can lose in life is when you give up. And with the right coach and the right mentor, you will never give up. Here at Robbins Resource Management, I'm very fortunate that I have both in my life. I have coaches and I also have mentors. And that's what's allowed us to get to the place that we're at today. You know, we used to be a company that didn't look at the P&Ls all the time. We didn't look at the balance sheets. A lot of times we were waiting till the end of the year to see how we were doing. But we put the structure in place where now we have daily and weekly metrics that we're hitting with our teams. We have procedures put in place for our logistics teams, for our sales teams, for our warehouse. And we put all of these foundational pieces in place, which allows us not only to be able to grow as a company, but then it also allows us to duplicate ourselves and to be able to be in a position to have multiple companies at the same time that are healthy. You know, we look at being able to give back to our community, and one of the ways that we do this is by purchasing buildings here in our community and then going in and restoring those so that we can get businesses in there to make our community healthy. We're looking at how we can help our employees hit their own personal, professional, and financial plans that they have for their life, setting their goals for 1 year, 3 year, and 5 years out. And the only reason why we're able to do this is because we pulled in the right mentors and the right coaches who had already done this in their businesses, and they were teaching us how to apply it to ours. So here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help other business owners and other businesses be able to do the same thing. How can you get to the point where you're working in your business and not on your business? Where if you miss a week or 2 weeks or a month of work, things would actually probably do better while you were gone than even while you were there. You can get to that point, but it's going to take hard work to get there. You know, a lot of people will say, and I understand the saying, you want to work smarter, not harder. But I can tell you this, as your why becomes big, as you get to the point where you're trying to help as many people as you can, and you want to have a legacy in your community, you want to have a legacy in your family, and you want to have a legacy with the people that you work with and help them have a legacy, what you're going to find is you have to work smarter. But I believe that you also end up working harder at the same time because your why becomes so big. So let's land with the next steps that you're able to take. You know, as we look at our playbooks that we have here, these are things that we haven't invented. You know, when you look at everything from Collins to John Maxwell, I mean, all the greats that are out there, all the books that you read, there's really nothing new under the sun. And so it's a matter of taking the things that we've learned and copying them in your business. But you can start taking steps today. The first step you can take is who's your mentor? Who's your coach? And if you're not sure, then that means you don't have one. If you can't name a coach and name a mentor, then you do not have a mentor and coach. Well, how do you find them? These are questions that you might have, and these are questions we're going to answer in upcoming segments. The second thing that I would say that is something that you can be looking at is look at your P&L. Look at your profit and loss. Find one line on that profit and loss and improve it by 1%. You know, that's something that you can tangibly do today. You know, the third thing that I would say that we can do today is, and this is going to be a tough one. This is going to be really hard. So the third thing I'm going to ask you to do, because this is the number one enemy of every business out there, and that's obscurity. Obscurity means people do not know who you are. We get so stuck in our circle that we start thinking that everybody knows what we do. I can tell you that in this community, it's only 9,500 people, And most people have no idea what Robbins Resource Management does, even though we do a lot of marketing and advertising. Here's the hardest thing to do. It's to pick up your phone, turn the camera on, reverse it to you, and cut a video and then post it. So that's my challenge to you. If you haven't posted a video today, I want you to post one before you go to bed tonight, to Instagram, to Facebook, to YouTube. Post it somewhere. You just have to start today. And so that's the challenge, and it's going to be tough. Don't look at it. Don't watch it. You'll end up editing it and cutting it and editing it and cutting it, and it won't get done. Just film it and then post it. We are not designed to do life alone. We're designed to do life in community, and I believe that we should have community in business and being business owners and managers coming together to be able to learn together and walk together. If you found this helpful today, here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to subscribe. I'd like you to share it with a friend, share it with someone you know. Maybe they're going through some struggles right now. And I'd also like you to do this. Drop your questions or comments below. And so we can answer those questions in upcoming episodes. Looking forward to having other business owners on, people that we can learn from. Remember this, every one of us needs a mentor. Every one of us needs a coach. One last piece of homework. I want you to come up with a good question to ask your coach or to ask your mentor. And if you don't have one, just drop it below.